Hey folks, welcome back to Chris Wyatt Africa. This is Chris in Central Pennsylvania. Day 3 of Zuma Watch. Jacob Zuma failed to turn himself in on July 4th, the date he was given a deadline to submit himself to the correctional facility. Didn't do it. Followed an unprecedented legal challenge against the Constitutional Court's conviction and judgment of 15 months in prison for his contempt of court. So he failed to show up on the 4th, holding a massive rally outside his home in Nkandla, in which thousands of people showed up without social distancing, without wearing facial coverings, violating the prohibition against gatherings in South Africa during this 2-week lockdown. Unbelievable, the cheek of this guy. Then, as if he was some grand vizier or potentate or emperor, he sat and held court in ornately carved wood chairs while having journalists stand, at least some of them stood, not answering direct questions and simply playing the martyr, calling the African National Congress's judges and its government apartheid-like in their behavior. Unbelievable conduct by Jacob Zuma. Well, what else happened today on the 5th of July? For his part, the police minister, Bheki Cele, is in no rush to arrest Jacob Zuma, despite the fact that he now has an order from the Constitutional Court to arrest Jacob Zuma sometime from Sunday till Wednesday. He has until Wednesday to arrest him, issue a warrant, and to detain him. But Bheki Cele, who was in Orlando today as part of the police drive for inoculations against the pandemic, he got his jab. He said there's still time for the police to act if there's a need to do so. Well, are you stupid or just an idiotic moron? Of course there's a need to do so. The Constitutional Court has issued a valid order to arrest this man. He failed to turn himself in. He was given 5 days, very generous by the court, gave him 5 days to get his affairs in order, and he failed to show up. Just like he failed to show up on the 24th of February 2021 before the Zondo Commission, which is the reason why he was convicted of contempt in the first place. He shows up when he feels like it in Nkandla with thousands of supporters, violating all rules and thumbing their nose at the African National Congress's governance of South Africa. So if there's a need to do so, of course there's a need to do so, Bheki Cele. Yes, there is still time for the police to act. They have Tuesday, and then Wednesday is when the deadline is up. After that, they're in violation. Now, Zuma's legal team was scheduled to appear before the Pietermaritzburg High Court on Tuesday, the 6th of July, to plead for an urgent interdiction in the CONCOURT's sentence of 15 months. Now, this is unprecedented. So they're going to go to a lower court. The highest court in the land is the Constitutional Court. They're going to go to a lower court in a province to overturn the verdict of the High Court. Seems not even legal, let alone quite implausible. Now, Talon Bezuidenhout was going to argue that the police have not opposed Jacob Zuma's application for rescission to the Constitutional Court to get them to reconsider the conviction. The police are not opposing it, and he says that Jacob Zuma presents no flight risk. Well, both of these assertions are absolutely ludicrous. The fact that the police don't oppose his actions isn't germane. They have a lawful order. They are required to execute it. They don't pick and choose which orders they execute. They're not like the FBI picking and choose which their enemies of the state there are. They are required to arrest Jacob Zuma. There's no question about it. Unless the court rescinds the order, that hasn't changed. Regardless of what applications he's made to the court, that has not changed. Jacob Zuma should still be arrested by Wednesday, the 7th of July, 2021. Simple as that. Pretty simple. Talon Bezuidenhout is pulling at straws. He's grasping at straws, and he has a very weak grip on legal reality here. Now, what's interesting about Bheki Cele is this. During the lockdown, if you remember last year in 2020, he was gleeful that in the course of several weeks during the lockdown, which made South Africans virtual prisoners in their homes, that his police had arrested 230,000 South Africans, almost all of them law-abiding South Africans whose normal conduct was criminalized with what turned out to be an unconstitutional lockdown. As we know, the North Gauteng High Court in June of 2020 declared virtually every action that the National Coronavirus Command Council dictated to take away freedoms and liberties from South Africans was in fact unconstitutional and exceeded their authority. 230,000 South Africans arrested, charged with crimes. Now, the vast majority of those people arrested were arrested in well-developed neighborhoods, beaches, surfers, people walking along the beach, mothers nursing their children, people standing in their own backyard on their own property arrested for being outside their home. Almost all of those people were minority South Africans, whites, coloreds, and Indians. Very few were black South Africans. When the SANDF, the South African National Defense Force, and the SAPS, the South African Police Service, went into the townships to enforce the lockdown, they wound up killing at least 11 black South Africans that we're aware of. Who knows how many more, including the famous case of Talon Bezuidenhout, was beaten to death by the security forces, who were exonerated, not charged with a crime. Once the press got a hold of the murders of black South Africans, it exploded in the media, and the military and the police withdrew from the townships and focused on harassing and imprisoning minority South Africans in more developed areas. Now, he was strong. He was like white on rice last year, attacking minorities during the lockdown. He was also present for Senegal on the 20th of October, showing up there for who knows what reason to hang out in the courtroom with none other than Julius Malema, who had no standing before the court, who had no business being there, not a resident of the area, simply a member of parliament who arrived as if he was some sort of king with a 26 police car escort. Bheki Cele is a gangster, and his conduct in South Africa is reprehensible. This is more proof of it. But here's the thing for Bheki Cele. He better be very careful because his actions are bordering on contempt of court himself. By failing to enforce the Constitutional Court's order to arrest Jacob Zuma, Bheki Cele is in fact in contempt of the court's order and could find himself on the receiving end of an arrest warrant as well. Very possible reality here. The ANC could unravel very quickly here. Now, he was tough on minorities, arresting them for what is lawful conduct. He was tough on alcohol, tough on cigarettes during the lockdown. But he is mute on this. He's very quiet. He's taking no action. His exact words on the Zuma arrest are, "We will wait until the proceedings are finished." The proceedings are finished, young man. You have an order from the Constitutional Court. Execute it. You have until Wednesday to do so, the 7th of July. If not, you will be in contempt. Now, interestingly enough about this, a few South Africans have spoken out on this in very strong terms. And let me mention who they are. First off, we'll talk about Herman Mashaba, the former mayor of Johannesburg and former member of the Democratic Alliance, the main opposition party, who abandoned the party and then called the party racist after it had elevated him and taken him from nowhere in political obscurity and made him the mayor of Johannesburg. But he has his own organization called Action SA, which intends to compete in the municipal elections this fall. Well, it'll be spring in South Africa. Now, he said, have we revised the South African Constitution to allow the Minister of Police to have the prerogative to make his own decisions on the judgment of the Constitutional Court? Well, for once, Herman Mashaba and I are 100% in agreement. We're in complete agreement. He doesn't have the authority to adjudicate the court's decisions. It's his job to simply enforce the law, which he's failing to do. Now, the always controversial and bizarre commentator himself, political commentator, that's SABC McKaiser, has spoken out on this, and I never find common ground with him, but perhaps for once we've reached common ground. He had the following to say, accusing the minister of pissing on the Constitution. He said, "It is dangerous and unlawful for the police to inform the Constitutional Court that they have unilaterally decided to ignore a valid court order to effect an arrest. The police have a legal duty to help the courts to administer justice by assisting with the execution of court orders. This disturbing lawyer's letter is no different from Zuma himself pissing on the Constitution. The only basis on which the cops cannot arrest Zuma by Wednesday is if Zuma manages to successfully apply for a stay of imprisonment before Wednesday. If a stay application is not finalized before then, the cops must arrest him. The cops do not have legal authority to decide that the court order can be stayed." Well, Mr. McKaiser, for once, first time ever, we're in agreement. Absolutely in agreement. Of course, we've seen this abrogation of the rule of law on this side of the Atlantic. When James Comey, the corrupt director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, made a judgment and decided that Hillary Clinton was not culpable in violating the Espionage Act, which anybody who reads the Espionage Act and can understand modern standard written English would understand that, in fact, she was guilty and she admitted her guilt and should be in prison for her actions. Hillary Clinton violated the Espionage Act. If Bheki Cele does not arrest Jacob Zuma by Wednesday, if no court, the CONCOURT, well, there's no other court that can do it. The Pietermaritzburg court has no standing. If they don't arrest him, then he's in contempt and Bheki Cele should be arrested. Let's see what happens, folks. Interesting times. Zuma Watch, day 3. Jacob Zuma, still a free man. Let's see how long it lasts.